What's going on, everybody? Aaron Trevini here. Welcome back to our real estate and construction channel down here in the beautiful state of Texas. And today we are joined by Vlad from New Jersey. How you doing today, Vlad?
I am doing great, thank you.
Absolutely. Now, I know this has been in the works for a little bit, and I'm excited for our conversation today, and excited to have you on the show.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really happy to be here. It's awesome. Thank you so much for the invitation.
Sure thing, Vlad. So, for those of us who aren't familiar with you, would you introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Vlad Arakcheyev. I know the last name is quite difficult to pronounce. I'm based out of New Jersey. I'm a real estate agent here. I have been for quite a long time, and I started uh, doing single family fix and flips. That was my beginning. That's the only thing I do here in New Jersey.
Okay, very good. And I'm curious, were you always, maybe growing up, were you always interested in the real estate business, or how did you get into this part of the business?
Actually, not at all. I was in graphic arts and advertising design. Since college, I started working in advertising design and joined an ad agency, worked in Manhattan for 15 years or so, and then worked for a large printer to do large format printing, which was really cool, I thought. Anyway, but things changed from COVID. I was furloughed for approximately 6 months, and then it was really difficult to know if I'm going to go back or not, or if I'm going to get recalled or just laid off completely, and something had to change. So I have two kids, a mortgage, and then I was speaking with my wife, and she says, we have to make a change. Something has to change. We cannot just rely on others for our future. And we just started thinking, what can it be? And she's like, let's just start real estate. Why don't you become a realtor? That seems to be going okay for people. You can control your own, pace, hours. You can be more involved with the family and have more freedom. And that's how the whole thing got started.
Yeah, I love that. It's funny. I'm sure some of that may have come from you, but it's always nice having, someone else there to kind of nudge you and say, "Hey, maybe you should go this way," right?
Yeah, well, yeah, it took some nudging on her end because I was like, I don't know anything about real estate. I mean, we bought an apartment, sold that, we bought a house, still live in it, but we used a realtor. I didn't know ins and outs or anything like that. And obviously she goes, well, so, since you're a real estate agent, let's try flipping. Let's try, single family and do a couple of flips. And uh, I was studying at night, going to a bunch of networking events after work because I still had my W-2 then. And now I had two jobs. So, but yeah, it was quite a challenge, but really exciting. And one of the days in the middle of December, I got so fed up at work. I literally, in the middle of my lunch break, just called my wife and I said, "Can you send me a resignation letter?" And she's like, "What?" I'm like, "Just email me a resignation letter right now." And she's like, "Okay." In 5 minutes, I had the letter, signed it, gave it to my supervisor, gave him my 2 weeks notice and resigned. So
Wow, that's incredible. And I'm curious, after that, obviously something happened, you were real upset, you were fed up with it, your wife sent you the letter. After what was going on in your mind after you finally submitted that letter?
it was a lot of fear, and but the biggest thing for me is mindset. So I had to work on my thinking and completely change the way I think. From all the books that I've read, from Robert Kiyosaki to Grant Cardone, and the biggest thing for you to do is to change the way you think, to change the way you think from being an employee to self-employed, to entrepreneur, to a business person. And that was the most difficult thing. To making that leap was the hardest thing for me to do. To basically be like, hey, listen, if you need to get a paycheck, you better earn it. So that's the most challenging for me. Still is, but a lot of books. I stopped listening to music. Always on podcasts, always webinars, always educational. If you're in the car for 2 hours, your radio should be off and you should be on podcasting, on educational, on audiobooks, etc., etc. Yeah.
I love that tip there. And, it's that can be tough to do, really having that sort of discipline to say, hey, I'm not going to get that dopamine hit of that, my favorite song on the radio or on my Spotify. You're going to choose to do an audiobook.
Yeah, listen, you listen to 10X by Grant Cardone. That's the biggest boost you'll ever need. I don't run a lot. I run for 5 miles, 3, 5, depending on my mood. If I run for 2 miles and you listen to Cardone and he's screaming 10X in your ear, you'll run for another 2 miles. He's like, it's all in your mind, just do it, 10x everything. And I have that all over. A lot of people kind of questions his methods, but I like it because he really, really pushes you. He really kicks your butt. So I'm into that.
Yeah, I mean, at least for me, I know I need a butt kicking sometimes. I guess, maybe we all do, but out of any maybe real estate guy or kind of motivational speaker, what do you like about Grant Cardone?
Um, he's really honest and raw. Some people are trying to kind of baby you or tell you, hey, listen, why didn't you try this? Or maybe some of that. There is no try. He just says, just do it. Just set your mind, go 10x, go 100% into it. Many of you heard Star Wars, Yoda, there is no try. You just do or don't do. That's exactly what Cardone does. He just says, absolutely, just put 100% of your effort in it. And if you fail, you should not just cry about it. You should have so much to do, you wouldn't have time to cry about it because another project will take over. And that motivation really kept me going. That's one of the big things. And of course, my wife is my biggest supporter. She's been in real estate for quite a long time too, obviously working for an employer. Um, but she's a huge help and she's a driving force behind me. So she's been supporting me all this time, staying home with the kids and, you know, doing everything she can to just propel our business forward.
Absolutely. I love that. It's always neat to kind of see, it sounds cliche, but kind of that, that power couple kind of thing. Um,
Yeah, I hear that too, yeah. Because it's quite difficult when your wife does something else and you try to have this business and you say, hey honey, I have to go to for a networking event or a real estate conference or whatever it can be. My wife's answer is, you know what, you should go to two instead of one. Do you have only one? Because funny thing is, just literally this Saturday of 3 days ago, I said, I'm going to the city to network. And she's like, you know what? Instead of wasting this trip to the city, schedule two more conferences back to back. So I actually went to three. Lunch at 12, then I went to another meetup at noon, and that stretched all the way to 4 o'clock. And then it was a network slash birthday party of an investor, and I met like five more people. So I left at 11, came back home at 8 o'clock. Had a blast. So
yeah, and you're having a blast. You're having fun while you're, taking care of business too, right?
absolutely, I shouldn't call it business. I call it an adventure. So.
There, see, there's your mindset shift, right? Instead of saying, I have to do this, I have the opportunity to do this and that.
Absolutely. It's the funniest thing. I kind of cut myself off from the TV. Before I used to watch Netflix and stuff like that. I'm not interested in it anymore. The fun thing for me is reading co-star reports and watching podcasts of like Jake and Gino or listening to, I don't know, wheelwright channels or something like that. I'm all I have is audiobooks and podcasts and videos on cap rates, slogans all over, like failure is not an option, or what we fear is what we need to do most. Things like that that really motivates you.
Sure, sure, absolutely. And I know you mentioned Jake and Gino. So for those of us who aren't familiar, who are Jake and Gino, and why do you like their content?
Yeah, Jake and Gino is basically they are a mastermind. There's a lot of people that teach multifamily. So, but like I mentioned, I was doing single family in New Jersey only, but I went just a little bit of a background. So, doing single family, doing flips, and then my wife goes, "We're not scaling fast enough. We should move to multifamily." And I'm like, "What? What? We're just doing this flips. We doing okay." She's like, "Nope, not enough. We have to do more." She also listened to Grant Cardone. So
Yeah.
she's like, "By the way, I booked the tickets to Disrupt Equity event in Houston." I'm like, "When is that?" She's like, "In a month, we fly into Houston." I'm like, "What?" So I'm sitting in the airport and I go, "What are we doing? I don't know anything about multifamily. I don't know apartments. I know how to buy houses in Newark, not buy apartment buildings. They cost $20 million, whatever they are." Basically, after 2 days at that event, I got completely hooked. We are buying in Texas, in San Antonio and Houston mostly. Just recently, we actually also buying in Florida. I'll get to that a little bit later. But yeah, now we're in multifamily, and that's basically um, the whole trajectory and how we ended up here. So.
Absolutely. And I'm curious, what year was that for you? What year did you come to see Disrupt Equity in Houston?
Exactly this December, so 9 months ago. And
Okay.
as soon as we visited that conference, we got so inspired by everybody. We started interviewing multifamily, I say, masterminds or teachers because we needed a sponsor. We needed somebody to back us up. We needed support. So we interviewed, there's a lot of mentors out there. We stopped at Jake and Gino, and they basically nationwide multifamily mastermind. And we joined them. And the coolest thing about them is not only education, but really the backing. They give you a push and help and everything. Like you have a question, how to underwrite, where to buy, how to pick a market. They give you coaching, they give you strategies, underwriting models, everything. So without them, can you do it? Absolutely. But it's like learning to ski, right? You can go on the slopes, you can go 5 times on a mountain, you can fall 100 times, eventually you learn. But if you take a teacher, if you get a teacher, after 2 hour lesson, I'm sure you'll be fine without falling 100 times. It's the same thing here. We want to accelerate as fast as possible. That's why getting a coach or a mentor, I think it's one of the best things you can do.
Sure. No, absolutely. And I mean, if someone's already been there, you may as well ask them how to get to where, you want to be, right?
It's a lot of hard work. It's constant. Like it's 9:20 right now, and we're doing this recording. So it's a lot of hard work, but it when you see it pays off, you really push more. You really like push for because it everything any conversation that you might have with somebody can lead to something else. Like I was just at a networking event and I just completely unrelated. We were talking about motorcycles because I ride a motorcycle. And the guy goes, "Hey, listen, I ride motorcycles too. Oh, by the way, I'm in Florida. Do you invest in Florida?" "Yeah, I was thinking about investing in Florida." "Oh, I have this thing." And we got connected, and now we're buying property in Florida. Just completely out of the blue, unrelated, just pivoted from motorcycles, and now we're buying a property in Florida. How
Yeah.
crazy is that?
So if anyone's out there and they ride a motorcycle, network with people around you because they could have deals.
Absolutely. You never know.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. And one interesting word used earlier was underwriting. And I know, when people think of multifamily, they think of millions of dollars and it's so out of reach. Could you maybe describe what underwriting is and what you have to do to really qualify a deal and see if it's worth the time?
Sure, yeah. Well, number one, you have to completely change your mind and you have to think of it as a team sport. You cannot do it by yourself. It's impossible. In like I'm a syndicator in a syndication or even a JV, which is joint venture, where 5 or 7 people get together and buy something. You cannot buy it by yourself. Like I don't know a lot of people that can buy, let's say, $5 million property. There's always a team of people. So you have to delegate, you have to trust other people. You get together, you buy something. Like right now, we bought 6 acres of land in Florida. There's 8 members in our JV group. So 8 of us are sharing responsibility, and we purchase this land, and we're going to make decisions. So that's how the JV model basically works. Syndication is a little bit different, where you have a group or several groups of people, and you get passive investors or LPs, and they invest money into a syndication. They get payout every quarter or something like that, and then they that's why they passive. All they do is make money on their investment, while GPs, general partners, make all the decisions and ultimately, run the whole show. That's how it works. But underwriting is basically you use a model. In many cases, it's an Excel document which has tabs on the bottom, a lot of stuff. It's pretty complicated. But that's why Jake and Gino, for example, is important. Approximately, it takes 6 months to learn how to underwrite and look at T12 or trailing 12 correctly and the rent roll. You look at if buying something makes sense. That's how you underwrite it. You look at the numbers. You look at debt coverage ratio. That's what the banks look for. You look at expenses. You look at income, and then you compare. You look if you can bump up rents. You look at where can you make money, and that's what the underwriting model basically is. There's a lot of underwriting free classes on YouTube you can take. There's a lot of people teaching how to underwrite, but um, in my case, I had a coach that actually literally spent hours and hours with me going step by step on each what cell does, each like page does, and what to look for. It's quite complicated. You have to be good with numbers. So if you don't know how to do it, you get somebody that does. You don't have to do everything, right? I, can I underwrite? Sure. But am I good at it? It takes me, I don't know, 5, 6 hours. But my wife, she does it on 2. Guess who's doing underwriting in our family? She is.
Yep, that's the dream team right there. And I know you mentioned a T12 or a trailing 12, but what exactly is that in the context of underwriting?
Sure, yeah. T12 is basically trailing 12. If when you buy a property, you ask a broker for T12, it basically gives you all the expenses, a year worth of expenses, and income and how the property is operating. If they don't have 12 months, they can give you T3, but you should ask for T12. It's basically income and expenses of a property. What are they doing? What are they spending on? How much are they making? Things like that. So you need all those numbers to underwrite a deal and correctly to look at if it makes sense. Because, like, for example, if you look at if they have crazy expenses and no income and you buy this thing, you will you will be buying a bad deal. So you really got to know what you're looking at. So ultimately, you have to also make sure that your debt income ratio is above 1.25. So basically, when you buy something, you have to get a loan. So all the lenders will be looking at those numbers also. So if you look at the T12, you try to underwrite it, and then you send your model to the bank will not give you a loan if the numbers don't make sense. So yeah, underwriting is very important. T12 absolutely is a must when you're trying to underwrite. You have to learn how to read it correctly. That's when coaching and studying, obviously, very important.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I'm curious, I know you mentioned your wife can do it in 2 months, maybe, for you,
Two,
you
two,
oh,
2 hours.
oh, did I say months?
Yeah.
Yeah, that she can do it within 2 hours. Maybe it takes you a bit longer. Once it's underwritten, what do you do from there? What's next?
Well, yeah, good question. So with us, usually we have a team of people. So I work with 3 people directly. I usually send that model to my partners for like a quick, second peek. If it makes sense for them, they make an adjustment, stuff like that. And of course, we have to send it to a lender to see if that makes sense. Also, we have to budget for taxes because taxes will go up. So we call the tax assessor's office, find the tax information and the insurance. So we send that information to the broker and they provide an insurance quote. Taxes and insurance in Texas are crazy, and you know this.
Yeah.
In Florida, they're even worse because of the, hurricanes and everything, tornadoes, everything is, it's a great place to live, but, what do we have? Like hurricane now hitting Florida. So yeah, anyway, yeah, and then you basically do your due diligence. You kind of walk the property, you schedule a tour, you take a look how everything is, and you just kind of go step by step on what to do when you purchase it. After the underwriting is complete, you can submit an LOI, which is letter of intent, and what the purchase price is, what are you paying, how much your earnest money is, the whole thing is kind of broken down in a piece of paper. It's kind of an offer, you should say, and then you go on the contract and you know, do the thing. But
Sure.
like I said, never do it alone. Always have other team members. Like I'm in New Jersey, right? That's actually a good question. A lot of people ask me, if you're in New Jersey, how can you buy in Texas? I'm like, I have 2 people live in Texas. They're my partners. So if I need something, I can just pick up a phone and be like, hey, listen, can you go to 125 Main Street and walk that property with a broker? They're like, absolutely, make an appointment for tomorrow, 2 p.m. Done. That's how it works.
Yeah, easy enough. I guess that's the power of really, networking with people regardless of where they are, around the country.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I'm curious as well. You mentioned, two big things that I know that people talk about, not only for multifamily deals, but even, any types of deals or taxes and insurance. And I remember you said, talking about taxes, you could go to the county record, but for the insurance side, do you have I guess, an insurance provider that's basically breaking down the coverages for a multifamily apartment complex, or how does that work?
Yeah, it's just a broker. You can you can ask for recommendations or anybody if you I go to so many networking events. I just kind of ask. I'm like, hey, listen, who's your broker? Who's your insurance person? And I give them a call. We have an interview. We just chat. In some cases, I use like it just depends on the area. So, for example, in Florida, I have one person that I really trust. He knows a particular area, like Tampa, for example. In Texas, we use another company. They know, everything in, for example, San Antonio, where I'm investing, or Houston. So it just depends. So I usually go to broker and they find me the best rate. And also, of course, your lender is calling the shots. So the lender is like, hey, we need this type of coverage this for this property, this. So, broker actually kind of, figures that out. And of course, they look at if it's in a flood zone, then your insurance will skyrocket. So you have to compensate for that. So there's a lot of factors that go into it. Um, and we look at everything. We look at the roof, we look at foundation, of course, we look at plumbing, we look at electrical. Um, Usually we purchase approximate 1980 or later vintage due to electrical and plumbing. Those are the things that you should be looking at. You should have strict buy criteria. And I know a lot of people are buying all over the place, but I I don't know. I'm just concentrating on one market. I want to be really good at it, know the prices, know what I'm looking for, and just be really concentrating on one market. Yeah.
Absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. And I was just curious, because, I guess, Texas and Florida are vastly different places. And I was just curious about the taxes and insurance side of it.
Yeah, they're high everywhere. I mean, in Texas and Florida, they are high. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I just like those states. I mostly look at everything Sunbelt. I because it's more landlord friendly.
Mhm.
They are kind of, plus the growth in Texas is just huge, as we all know. Texas is just, blowing up, especially big markets like that. I mean, some markets are oversaturated, or so some people say, but there's good deals to be found everywhere. Like people say, oh, Dallas is, but you can still find good deals in Dallas. Absolutely.
Sure, sure, absolutely. And I'm curious. I noticed. Well, I remember you spoke about taxes, and I guess the first thing that I would think of would maybe be back taxes. And I'm curious, have you ever underwritten a deal, or you were almost going to purchase a property, but I guess the amount of taxes and insurance costs basically told you to decline the deal? Have you ever seen that before?
Yeah, yeah, good question. I have absolutely. Just 2 months ago, uh, 3 deals got killed by insurance.
Mm,
Literally. That was before those huge interest hikes that we just seen. I mean, the market didn't correct for itself, so the sellers wanted the top dollar. We underwritten the deal, seemed okay. We asked for the new tax information and obviously insurance. They literally doubled.
mm,
And we went back and we say, hey, listen, we like the deal, we like the numbers, everything works, but look what our insurance and taxes are. We, ju- we just cannot buy it with these numbers because we just cannot, we can't, it just doesn't make sense. We're going to lose money and we cannot, you know, our investors will not go with us. Nobody's going to invest in this property with these numbers. Seller said no, and we walked away. So literally exactly what you just said, insurance and taxes killed the deal. But guess what? They came back to us and they said, can you still purchase at that number? We want to go with you. We're like, no, now look at the interest rates. Now we have to adjust the price. So we're actually looking at that deal again. So deals are coming back. Deals are coming back.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I was just curious because I had actually talked to a friend of mine, let's see, maybe two weeks ago, and he's looking to do a new construction project, and it just so happened to be in a flood zone. And he was asking me maybe for some help with insurance, and I just found it interesting that that was a big factor in him, in not only him doing the deal, but just the way he would be able to do the construction would be based off the taxes and insurance costs.
Yeah. Is he doing it though?
At least as of now, yes. At least the last time I spoke to him.
Okay. Well, okay. That yeah, I mean, when you do ground up construction, I don't know much about it. I never done one. We just purchased a parcel of land, like I said, like 7 acres in Florida, and the idea behind it is we probably going to build 96 units on it, but that's going to be in a year. We have to rezone it first. That takes approximately a year. I don't know what our exit strategy is yet. We have a few, but that's going to be my first ground up construction project if we decide to move forward. But you always have larger returns when you do ground up construction. That's what I see all the time.
I'm curious why is that? Maybe compared to doing a value add, or maybe you putting money into an existing apartment complex. Why do you think there's more money in doing the ground up construction?
Yeah, I mean, it's a different type of investment where you can purchase something, you can purchase a land. It's like when you build stuff from scratch, it always is less expensive when you already build something when you buy something brand new. When it comes to single family house and to a big building. So you have to find a special type of investor who is okay with not making any money for like the first 2 years because it's being built. There's no tenants there, so they sitting and waiting till it's built. What if there are delays? Like for example, I know a friend of mine. He invested in a deal 2 years ago, and it's a ground up construction, and obviously everything got delayed because of COVID. So now it's 3 years into it already, and he received zero. So you have to be okay with that risk. And if God forbid something changes in the let's say local government, and they decide not to move with that project or kind of start canceling projects, I'm not sure if it's possible doable, but I'm sure it is, then everything goes belly up. Or if there's a supply shortage, so like we just see now with appliances and raw materials, I mean, it's quite difficult. So it's more risk and obviously more reward. So it's risk versus reward type of thing. But I like my apartments. I like my apartments already built. I look for B or C class style so I can do value add and then hold it for 5 years, maybe more, hopefully up to 7 years, and then sell it. Yeah.
Okay, very good. And I'm assuming value add, you're just you're putting work into the property, or what exactly does that mean?
Yeah, absolutely. You put some work on the property, you renovate some units, you paint it, you make it pretty on the outside, you can expand the pool, you make make a beautiful dog park, for example, improve a laundry area, really improve the grounds landscaping. You can do a like preferred parking, cover parking with like roofs. And of course, you can update the units. You can do new appliances, countertops, etc., etc. You can increase the rents, and obviously that's gonna increase the value of it, and you can sell it. So that process, the whole process usually takes. I mean, it depends on how many units and stuff like that and what you need to do. But let's say it takes a year, maybe year and a half, maybe 2 years, depending. So and then you enjoy that you can refi, enjoy that cash flow, and then sell it. So your investors will love you for that because the cash flow in the beginning is very little, right? Because your money goes into fixing up the property, but then after you refi, they have a big chunk of money, and then after you sell, that's when the most money comes in because that's where your return is on a sale, the biggest. In many cases, and I would say most cases, but obviously there's exceptions.
Sure, absolutely, Vlad. And what about you? Maybe someone's listening, they're in New Jersey, they're Texas, Florida, another part of the country. What are you looking for right now?
Biggest thing for me right now is I'm looking at, like I said, I'm looking at a lot of deals in Texas, but I'm also looking to connect with other investors. I'm not married to those markets. Even though those markets are mine, I like those. I'm open in other areas as well because a lot of people ask me, like, for example, I just connected to a few people in North Carolina and they said, hey, listen, can you just underwrite a couple of deals or what do you think about these? Or I'm raising capital as well. So they said, can you help me raise capital for a deal in North Carolina, which is a hot market? So I go, yeah, of course, but let me underwrite the deal. Let me look at the numbers, because if I'm going to pitch that deal to my investors, I want to make sure that it makes sense. I want to make sure that it's a solid deal with a solid operator that has experience in that area. Because, like, for example, if somebody says, hey, listen, I'm buying a deal in North Carolina, and all the deals they bought previously is in Iowa, I will like, do they really know that market? Do they have a good property manager there? How connected are they? So I have to figure out, but if they say, hey, listen, we have 2,000 units in North Carolina, I'm like, okay, so they experience, they have a good track record, they're solid operators, so I'm gonna help them out, of course. So I can help with operations, with marketing, obviously due diligence, underwriting, raising capital. So those are my strengths. I can fill in for whatever I can, obviously remotely, because I'm not gonna fly to North Carolina all the time. But those are the things that I'm looking for right now. Yeah, I would say, yeah, those are the top things. Good, solid operators, of course, connections. And I think I can speak with everybody. The biggest thing right now, everybody's looking for investors. So investors, if you're looking to invest in multifamily, it's one of the best things to hedge against inflation. If you see stock market is dipping now, cryptocurrency, and I have crypto too. I don't even look at that thing anymore. I don't know what's happening with that, but I know, and everybody's like, oh, what about, is it gonna crash like in 2008? Housing market, maybe, possibly. I don't know what's gonna happen, but single family might crash. But people have to live somewhere, right? So what are they gonna do? They're gonna rent from me or other multifamily investors, or like you. So,
Absolutely, Vlad. Well said. And maybe, is there anything you haven't said thus far you'd really just like to tell everyone?
uh, yeah, if you want to get into this, it's start by educating yourself. That's the most important thing. Education is huge. It, you have to be patient. It can take 6 months. It can take a year, if not more. My coach, Bill Ham, he says you have to underwrite 80 deals, 80, before you buy one. And if, let's say, it takes you 5 hours to underwrite one deal and you have to look at 80, you see how much time you have to spend. So it's a long game. For example, on average, a new investor, it can be just on average, it can be faster or longer, can look at deals for a year and 6 months and get nothing. Absolutely. But the thing is to pick yourself up, keep on going, don't give up. It's that mindset where constantly communicate with everybody what you're trying to do, where are you going. Um, Speak with people, go to conferences all the time, nonstop. You think one Zoom event or networking event is enough? No, go to three. Talk to everybody. Just stand at a gas station pumping gas and be like, hey, listen, what do you think of the market today? Just ask somebody. You never know. Maybe they're a doctor or a lawyer and be like, hey, listen, I'm looking to invest. I'm a doctor. I have all this cash. I don't know what to do with. And I'm like, hey, listen, invest in my apartment building. Investors are everywhere. You never know. Make relationships, talk to people all the time. Talk to people. That's the key.
Absolutely. Talking to people all the time. That's the key. I think
Yeah.
that's a great way to end our show because, really you just kind of have to give yourself a chance, right? You never really know until you put yourself out there and try, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's I just kind of gave an overview. It is a lot more in-depth information. I don't want to overload anybody with anything. It's just kind of my journey. I'm not here to talk numbers and throw terminology at everybody. I don't like to do that. I like to speak in just, just regular language, because you never know who's going to listen to this. It can be an experienced operator or a person that's just trying to start now. And I'm not going to say IRR and ARR and multiples and all this nonsense. It keep that for your internal team. In here, we're just having fun, right? So in here, we're just talking about how to get people up to that level and start investing. So
Absolutely. So maybe, someone wants to get to that level. Maybe they have some cash. Maybe they're, an experienced operator, or maybe they're starting out for the first time and they want to connect with you. Where can we find you, Vlad?
yeah, I'm on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, Vlad Arakcheyev, Arakcheyev. I think I'm the only Vlad Arakcheyev on those platforms. I don't think there's others. So look me up definitely, and let's talk. I'll help. I'll help, and you know, talk with anybody. I mean, it. I love speaking real estate. Today, you're actually my fourth person that I'm talking to. I had Zoom calls pretty much the whole day since 9 a.m. and I love it.
Absolutely. Well, I can see you're definitely passionate about what you do, Vlad. And we've talked about a lot today, a bit about your background, taking the jump into real estate, a bit about underwriting, and what you do with multifamily deals. I sure have learned a lot, and I appreciate you coming on the show, and it's been a real pleasure.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for inviting. Absolutely. I really loved it.
Sure thing. Have a good one.
You too. Thank you.